champion golfer for 1963 with a score of 140 strokes is Bob Charles of New Zealand.
Hello and welcome to episode 140 of The Thing About Golf, the podcast series from Golf Australia magazine tackling that eternal question, what is it that draws people so strongly to this game? Rod Morri is my name, and as you heard in the opening clip, our guest on this episode is one of the game's high achievers, though those achievements, I've always felt, have never really been matched by his profile. Much of the reason for that is because Sir Bob Charles could best be described as humble, going about his entire life in the same manner that he played his golf, quietly and with a single-minded and determined focus. He didn't have the charisma of an Arnold Palmer, the natural self-promotion instinct of a Gary Player, nor the almost alien level of talent that Jack Nicklaus brought to the game. Yet he moved among those godlike figures comfortably, and many times, on the golf course at least, he had their number. It's a long road from the North Island of New Zealand to the 108th green of Lytham and St Anne's to accept the claret jug, 108 holes, by the way, because Bob won the 1963 championship in a 36-hole playoff. It would be impossible to capture that whole journey in one podcast episode, which stokes my fear with these types of interviews that one always feels more has been left out than gotten in. But hopefully you find the discussion that we did have as interesting as I did, because a nicer and more generous man than Sir Bob Charles, it would be difficult to imagine. Well, Sir Bob Charles, we'll start where we always do by saying thank you for taking part. We know the thing about golf is a bit of a commitment, but fabulous to talk to you. Let's start with our usual jumping off point. What's the thing about golf for Sir Bob Charles?
The thing about golf?
It's a stumper, isn't it? Nominating one.
It's been a lifetime as far as I've been concerned, and I started. I've got photographs with me with a hickory shafted club in my hands at the age of 3.
Mm-hmm.
I love all ball games, and ball games fascinated me from an early age. My early, shall we say, Christmas presents, birthday presents were, rugby football was the first one that I remember, and then it was a tennis racket and a cricket bat, and I did, as I say, start with hickory shafted clubs. The first 2 clubs I had were a mashie and a mid-iron. As I say, I'm fascinated with ball games. On my farm, I have a tennis court. I've got a croquet court. I've got a billiard table, ping pong table. Anything regarding ball games is I'm at my happiest.
Yes, you're into it.
And golf was, my introduction to golf was through my parents, obviously. They were both keen golfers. And so I had the opportunities to play various sports. And, of course, golf became my means of making a living, my work.
Yeah, indeed. Is it a legal requirement in New Zealand, Sir Bob, that a child's first Christmas gift that's got a sporting theme should be a rugby ball? I think that's a legal thing in New Zealand, isn't it? The country's obsessed with the sport.
I didn't last long in rugby. But, in fact, it's a brutal game. I had an injury as a 12-year-old at primary school. And when I went to high school, I didn't play any rugby whatsoever. So
sensible decision.
I enjoy watching it, but I don't envy anyone playing it from a young age.
No, you would have been to live rugby games, as have I. And if you sit anywhere near the sideline and you hear the sound of the impact of the 2 bodies meeting at high speed, that's not for me. Yeah. I'm a spectator only in that department. So golf a good choice. Did you take to golf immediately? Did it grab your attention, sort of academically, mentally, as well as sort of physically?
Oh, indeed. My mashie, which I had at a very young age, Mash is about a 6-iron, I think, in a modern day set. And I used to chip I used to use ping pong balls or wiffle balls, those little air balls.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And in the winter time, I would take my mashie and chip into armchairs. And so it was just a great way of introducing myself to the game of golf and passing the time.
Mm. Now, of course, we're going to come to the 1963 Open and much else about your career. But am I right that I heard or read in an interview recently with you that you've had exactly 2 golf lessons in your life? One lasted 30 seconds and the other about an hour. Have I got that roughly right?
You have, yes. I've got to get them in order. Yeah, the first lesson was from Bob Tosky.
Bob Tosky, yeah.
Who was one of the greats back in the 40s and 50s, into the early 60s. He has now a great reputation as a teaching pro. And in 1966, I was having a struggle with my game on the regular tour. I was playing at the time. We were in Western Open in Chicago, Beverly Country Club, and I thought, why don't I try and get a little bit of advice? So went down to the range. Well, he kindly offered and went down to the range, and he said, grip the club and take your stance, grip the club. And before I knew it, he was trying to rip the club out of my hands. And he immediately said, your big problem is you're gripping a club too tight. I was just, which at the time I had you might say, an uncontrollable draw, which turned into, on occasion, turned into a duck hook. So right from then, I loosened up my grip and I think, and try not to, throttle the club or just grip it firmly but lightly. Would be the best description, I suppose.
Is it testament to the endless torment of this game that 3 years after winning one of the most important tournaments in the game, you were simply gripping the club too tight and had been thrown into chaos by that?
Well, that's true. You might say that, but no. And then the second occasion that I had a lesson was with what's his name, the Rhodesian
David Ledbetter, who in fact was on this show last week, Bob. Our last episode was with David Ledbetter. Ironically, I was intrigued to hear you say that you'd worked with him for an hour because people will get a double dose. I don't think he mentioned you, but I'm sure you'll pay the courtesy of mentioning him.
Yeah, well, the story goes there that I was living yeah, I must have been before I turned, 83. It was 3 years before I became a senior. And I was not playing that well. Called him up at Greenleaf, I think it was, in Orlando. Was it Greenleaf? Where he was the pro, and said, I'd like to, come and speak with you, and I'm not happy with my game. I need a quick lesson. So I went and spent an hour with him in his office. We never went out on the golf course. I never hit a ball. We just spoke about the mental side of the game. And the end result was that I went out a few weeks later and won the Tallahassee Open, which was on the second tour on the States at the time. So I won a tournament within weeks of getting a mental lesson, you might say, from David Ledbetter.
Yeah. Bob, so clearly self-taught, we hear this sometimes. It's fairly rare in the modern game. In fact, I can't think of a player apart from perhaps Bubba Watson of the last decade or two who hasn't had a full-time coach. What I'm intrigued by is, what does teaching yourself to play golf look like? What did the young Bob Charles do to learn to play all the different shots you need to compete and win at the level that you went on to compete and win at?
Well, I'm a simple person and believe in simplifying as much as possible. I think a lot of the young people, they tend to complicate it. I mean, once you can hit a golf ball and once you can score 67 or 68, you must know a little bit about the game and the swing. And I was that kind of a player. I never had a teacher. At a young age of, say, 17 or 18, I could beat just about all the pros in New Zealand.
Well, you did,
of course,
didn't you?
of course, winning the Open at the age of 18, including beating Bruce Crampton and Peter Thompson, two Australians to name. I try and tell a lot of young people, figure the game out, do it your way. Figure the game out, and I learned a lot from books. Ben Hogan was his book Power Golf was and I don't think I ever read the book. I just looked at the pictures and tried to imprint his swing into my mind and do the straight right arm, which his left arm was very straight in the backswing, get a good extension going back, keep the head still through the hitting area, watch the ball till through impact, and get a nice high finish. And they were basic things, simple basic things, not too technical. And I've throughout life, I've tried to simplify things as much as possible and not overcomplicate things.
Brings to mind Arnold Palmer's great description of the golf swing: 2 turns and a swish.
That's I believe in that. Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Would that still be possible in this day and age, Bob?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. Yeah. When you get to that level, it becomes a mental game. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe you're going to hole a putt. You've got to believe that you're not going to 3-putt, that you're going to hit the fairways. Once you start thinking negatively, I'm talking about thinking positively. Once you start negative thoughts, I might miss this, and how am I going to hole this putt? You're not going to be a candidate for success.
You've beaten yourself in many ways, haven't you? And it's
correct.
Like the game itself, it's just a simple message, but for most of us, a difficult one to implement. Doesn't sound like you had too much difficulty for the bulk of your career, apart from those 2 times when you felt you required a lesson.
Right, yes.
Which is, I read in your book, and we're here to talk about your book, which is just about to be, I think, released in Australia. I think it's been released in New Zealand already. I read in the book that one of a few themes came up: shy, gentle. These are the words people would use to describe you. I think, if I'm recalling correctly, you didn't even dance at your own wedding because you were worried about perhaps embarrassing yourself. Is that true? And then try to explain to me, if you can, how that personality pursues what's essentially quite a high-profile career. I mean, winning the Open is a big deal. You're now Sir Bob Charles. It comes with a lot of other stuff. It doesn't feel like those two personalities match.
Yeah, well, I was an only child, and I had to make my own fun, which was sport. It took me 2 years to get school certificate. I had to go back an extra year in the 5th form. I spent a year in the 6th. Well, why I did that, I don't know. It was a total waste of time. I didn't learn anything. All I was interested in at school was getting out in the playing fields and playing cricket and golf and a little bit of tennis. So I was... being the son of a schoolmaster, that seems a little bit of a contradiction there. You'd think that I would have tried to learn a little more at school, but
you were rebelling.
The interesting thing there is, I don't know whether you read it in the book or not, but my dad taught me in my last year at primary school. That's at the age of 12, before I went to high school. Mm-hmm. And I was actually, that particular year, I was runner-up to the Ducks of the school. So I must have absorbed a little bit of stuff as far as education goes, to be runner-up to the Ducks. When I went to high school, it was a totally different Well, no, and I go back a bit. My father never gave homework at primary school, and I never had to do any homework. Once I was there from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock with the school hours, and once the school hours were over, I was onto the golf course or the cricket field or the tennis court, whatever. When I went to high school, they gave you homework. I said, "What's this? I'm not going to do any damn homework. I'm going to go out and play golf after school hours from 3 o'clock till 7 o'clock, and I would be playing golf." So it was a totally different structure as far as education went, and so I went from the virtually close to the top of the class to the bottom of the class, right there, because I wasn't interested in doing any extra curricular homework.
Yeah. I wonder if that tells us anything about some of our systems. And you think of the education system and how many kids don't fit into it so well, into the model that we have. And you wonder how different things might have been, because clearly scholastic achievement does not equal intelligence. You're a clearly intelligent man who's gone on to become very successful in life in all sorts of ways, and yet school was a difficulty for you in that way.
Yes. Well, I got caned at school. I got strapped at primary school and got the cane at, and I deserved it too. And of course, I'm from the school of spare the rod and spoil the child. I still believe in that. My children are would vouch for that also, but they're pretty good citizens. I love them dearly, and I think they love me. And the little bit of it was only happened once that I raised my hand to them. Well, actually, my daughter, I don't think I did raise my hand to my son, but I did to my daughter, and she's well, she doesn't make a big issue of it now, but I feel sorry and regret it, but it was just a temper. Well, that's another thing. I did have quite a temper actually, and I think you might have read in the booklet, playing cards with my family. I was losing or something and threw the cards down, and they said, "If you ever do that again, we'll take your golf clubs away from you, punish you," which I well deserved. Yeah. So it was a lesson. All these things are lessons in life.
Yeah. And, of course, there's no textbook, is there, particularly for kids? They come along and just upend your world, and that's their job. You start to – I'm interested to hear that. I understand what you're saying, discipline and those things. These are tricky subjects for parents in the modern era where it's just not accepted that you should sort of hit your children. I was interested to hear you say you were sorry about that and regret that. How did you feel about that at the time? Did there any sort of confusion about this position you found yourself in?
No.
Not to pry, but I'm just interested in the thought process. Yeah.
Well, my wife gave me a good talking to afterwards.
Excellent.
That kind of cooled it all.
Might have been easier if she'd raised her hand to you to send the message rather than have to endure the being told how wrong you got it.
That's right.
As we all have. But it's not possible to go through everything in the book. That's why it's a book, because it is just an extraordinary story. But it stands out to me what a journey it is from New Zealand in the 1950s and 60s to the world golf stage and to the Open Championship. And a journey like that doesn't unfold just in a linear fashion, does it? Now, you mentioned being self-taught, being able to beat the other all the other local pros when you were sort of 17. If I'm thinking correctly, you didn't even have perhaps your first full set of clubs at that stage. Quite late did you get your first full set? If I recall, it was a reward.
I would have been 18.
18.
When I got my first set of Slazenger Norman von Niders. The irons, the irons including the putter. The woods were sports ply. They were locally produced here in New Zealand. But, and of course, they were the clubs which I won later. I would have got them probably for my birthday in March and used them to win the New Zealand Open in November. that 1954, that same year.
Yeah. 18 when you won the New Zealand Open as an amateur, which is an extraordinary achievement. Peter Thompson, Kel Nagle, I think, in that field. Very
No, not Kel.
Not Kel.
No, well, the only two Australians were Peter and Bruce Crampton.
Yeah, when we read the leaderboards from that time, the same names keep cropping up, so it's sometimes hard to distinguish, and yours is among them. You'd only been a golf club member, I think, for some time, although clearly you'd played for some time before. What did the golf world look like back then? Now, I know it was a big story. It is always a big story if an amateur wins a professional event, but particularly a national open at such a young age, 18 years old. What did the golf world look like back then?
Well, what did it look like?
Well, it looked like only New Zealand to you, because that's where you've been, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't start competing until I was 17. Well, I could only join the local golf club when I was 15. My mother and I were runner-up in a foursomes event at the local club, and it was not until I was 17 that I actually started competing. I think, I enjoyed, what should we say? Not success, but as a 17-year-old, I was able to play to a better than scratch handicap. I think I had a plus handicap when I was 17. The lowest handicap I had was +3. Well, I don't know what that represents to today, but that meant every time I go out, to play to my handicap, I've got to be three under par for the round on a golf course which was relatively short. I didn't think it was short. It was past 72. So the golf world, I would have played a few before the Open. I would have played a few local tournaments. My first New Zealand Open was the year before as a 17-year-old at down at Dunedin, Balmacune, and that was when I first saw Peter Thompson play. Peter won the New Zealand Open in 1953. I went down there to play, missed the cut. I think I shot 280s, but that was a great experience for me, and of course, the following year I won. But the world of golf.
Where did you get your information from, Bob?
Hold on. I was introduced to the world of golf, as you asked, in 1954. I started subscribing to the American magazine weekly publication called Golf World. Mm-hmm. Golf World. It came out of Pinehurst, North Carolina, one of the so-called home of golf in the USA. Mm-hmm. And my 50-year playing life is virtually recorded. All the tournaments I won or did well in is recorded in that. But Golf World exposed me to golf in the United States, and of course I couldn't wait for my weekly golf publication to arrive with all the scores. And so when at an early stage, even before I went to the United States 4 years later in 1958, I knew the names of all the great players, all the major tournament winners. And so that, to me, subscribing to that weekly publication had quite a big influence on my career.
Mm. How long after those tournaments had finished in the US did you get your copy of Golf World? This is an unthinkable scenario for anybody born after the 1980s, I suspect. But how long did it take to get that information from the US to New Zealand in print?
The magazine?
Yes. How long after it was printed did it arrive in New Zealand? So it would have had to fly there. It would have been a couple of days, perhaps.
Oh yeah. No. It would have been a couple of weeks, more like.
Right.
Yes.
So you'd run a couple of weeks behind with the tournament results and all that sort of thing. Was there other access to information? Was there coverage on the television or the radio or anywhere in the daily newspapers?
None whatsoever. I think there would have been very little coverage. There was more coverage in the local weekend scores here in Christchurch than there would have been in anything other than the Open Championship. And, of course, the Masters might have got a little mention. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But,
Indeed. It tells us something about the information age we live in now, doesn't it? Where you could watch the golf on multiple screens at home should you want to. That doesn't even need to be a professional thing. We used to see the TV trucks with all the screens in. Well, you could have that in your house now if you wanted to, quite feasibly. Right. I wonder what role you think that's played in the way the game has changed. And I assume that you would agree that the game has changed in many ways since those days.
Oh, hugely. Yes, it's where do I start? Well, you want me to talk about the modern game, or
perhaps I'm intrigued by, broadly and within golf, media and its role in things. I'm intrigued by pathways into the game, and yours is a not uncommon story, but we need to know the best ways to get people to fall in love with the game so that the game can continue to be, as you would know, I'm sure in New Zealand, it's under threat in many parts of the world, particularly public golf courses, which are the main access point. And how all of those things interact, because none of them stand alone. So a young Bob Charles gets his Golf World magazine a couple of weeks after the tournament's over, and you read it. You read Ben Hogan's book. That's kind of all you've got. I wonder whether that's healthier in some ways than having YouTube and all of the coaches that are a part of that, the television coverage every week and all of the commentators and the way their biases that skew into commentary. Does any of that make sense, how I'm trying to sort of look at that broader, because it's all interrelated, isn't it, in so many ways?
Yes. Well, I think, not everybody is involved in sports. Not everybody likes sports. No, not everybody likes ball games. And I think it's something which is probably bred into you. My parents were both sports persons. My mother was a good rifle shot. She won a cup for that. She played tennis and golf. In fact, she started playing golf right-handed, and it was because my dad was a left-handed golfer that she actually switched to playing left-handed. Well, so-called left-handed, but that's another story, talking about left-handed and right-handed. I don't know whether we got the time for that.
We absolutely do, because you've piqued my interest immediately by saying, because you, of course, are, I think, right-handed. You write with your right hand, but you play the game left-handed, as do some of the longest hitters and some of the most successful players in the game. Switch hit.
All right. Well, I'm right-handed, right-eyed, right-footed. I kick with the right foot and do everything to my right. I can't do anything to my left. I'm not. I think I related in the book that I'm a double-handed backhand. In tennis, I play a forehand with my right hand, and all I'm doing in golf is playing a double-handed backhand in tennis. Are you with me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Are you with me there?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's worked to my advantage, because my strong eye is my right eye. I'm looking to my right. I wear a right-handed glove. I stand on the right side of the ball. People can't get their heads around that. They think I stand on the left side of the ball, but I stand on the right side of the ball. You're not looking backwards. You're looking forwards, right? Absolutely. So if you're looking forwards, I'm standing on the right side of the ball. Right-handers are standing on the left side of the ball. You with me?
Oh, I'm 100% with you. And as you're saying it, I'm thinking. So now
I'm hitting it on the right-hand side of the club face, and I'm hitting the ball to my right. All right-handers are hitting it to their left.
Mm.
And
you're freaking me out a bit.
Hitting it to their left, right?
Yes, indeed. You're 100%.
Right-handers are hitting the ball to their left.
Okay.
I'm hitting the ball to my right.
And was that natural from the first time you picked up a golf club or a cricket bat or a tennis racket?
Yeah. My dad was natural. He played a lot of cricket. He was a right-arm bowler, and he batted left hand. And when I say left hand, it's a matter of putting the left hand below the right. Now, you go to Canada, where they play a lot of ice hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the hockey players put the left hand below the right.
Okay, yes.
If you go to Scotland, to the Highlands of Scotland, to what's the name of the place? It'll come to me. Where they play shinty.
Yeah, Robert McIntyre.
Shinty is most of the players they use a stick. Okay, the stick has got 5-iron loft on left side and right side, and so you can use it either way. But most of them play with their left hand below the right, and they shoot like I would
to their right,
so-called left-handed.
Yes,
and of course Newton Moore is where I'm trying to think of. 55% of the golfing members of the golf club are left-handed. Only 45% of the members are right-handed. So
wow.
It's an interesting thing. I never ever felt at any disadvantage being a left-handed golfer. A lot of people ask whether golf courses were built for left-handers or right-handers, and I say no. Over 18 holes, that generally balance themselves out. And no, the only probably golf course where I did feel at a slight disadvantage was the Augusta National, where a great majority of the holes moved from left to right. And take that back. The holes at Augusta move from right to left, so they favour a right to left player. And of course, Lee Trevino was right through his career. He was a left to right player. I was a left to right player, and so the golf course really didn't fit our games. But along comes the country boy from wins 2 Masters, standing on the right side of the ball, and but he of course has the power to cut the corners on the right to left holes. Bubba Watson,
yes,
of course, winning 2 Masters.
Yes, indeed. You've clearly sort of looked into this a bit, Bob. It feels like there might be quite an area. I know there was a club professional here in Australia some years ago from the Hunter Valley who did an informal study and found that right-handed people who naturally played golf left-handed tended to be very long, much longer. Now, Greg Norman is left-handed but plays the game right-handed. Greg Chalmers is right-handed but plays the game left-handed, for want of a better term. I wonder whether this is an area of instruction we perhaps haven't looked into as much. There would have been, I assume, some disincentive in the early years to be left-handed because it's simply, well, the access to and the cost of equipment, I imagine, would have been an issue at various times. Not so much in this day and age, but when you were younger, I would think that would have been an issue of some sort.
Well, that is the only disadvantage in my day was the a new right-handed club would come out, and it would take about 12 months before the equivalent in the left-handed model came out. So that really, I don't think, made any great change to myself.
Yeah, and being self-taught, I guess you figure it out, don't you? With whatever clubs you happen to have, you figure out how to play with those because that's all that's really important. Yeah. I wonder, Bob, what do you put your success down to?
What do I put it down to? Well, I have great powers of concentration, focus. I can block out exterior, a railway engine going past a putting green. I don't hear it. And I have what's the word I'm looking for now? Detail. There's another word there I'm looking at. Meticulous about preparation, and that I clean my own golf shoes, make sure the clubs are clean, and being ready. Preparation, getting ready for an event, a tournament. I am a detail person. I don't like to have details which you regret not doing before
loose ends
before the battle.
Yes.
It's organization. I'm pretty meticulous in being organized, and have a routine. I can do the same thing. I can eat the same food. I do have the same breakfast every morning. I don't get bored with doing things in a routine over and over and over again every day.
Do you think golf lends itself to that personality type in some way? Because it's a wonderful singular pursuit, golf, isn't it? You can play by yourself, you can practice by yourself. If you don't ever want to play with another person, you don't necessarily need to. Does that suit that personality type, do you think, in some ways?
Well, I don't. It worked for me.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Were you drawn to team sports as a youngster? You said all ball sports first. Were you drawn to team sports? Did you want to play them, and did you play them? And how did you find that versus?
Only cricket. Yeah, cricket was my only team sport.
Okay.
No. I'm as an only child, I like to be on my own. I got used to being on my own at a young age. And that's the great thing about golf. It's one of the few sports where you can really enjoy just playing on your own. You don't need a team. You don't need an opponent. And like in tennis, that's the beauty of the game of golf. You can get out there. Who was it, said golf is a good walk sport. Well, I don't look at it that way. I think it's a good way of enjoying the countryside, getting outside, exercise, fresh air, sunshine, a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, not to be indiscreet, but I think you're 89 now, Sir Bob, and it would be very difficult to tell that from chatting to you and looking at you. You're extraordinarily healthy and always have been. Yes,
well, that's about all I've got to look forward to these days is going out and breaking my age. And I tell everybody if I don't shoot my age or better, I feel like shooting myself.
Indeed.
Well, and I've got a kick out of I played on a couple of days ago and shot 73, which is that's 16 shots under my age. I have been, I had a 69 on a par 70, 69 when I was 87. So, that's 18. Yeah, I have been 18 under my age. So, and I was just 16 under my age couple of days ago. So that gives me a lot of pleasure and gives me something to try and achieve.
Not to diminish that achievement, Bob, but it is the one thing in golf that gets easier the longer you play. Nothing else gets easier about the game, but breaking your own age, there's a tipping point. Once you pass that, it does actually make. Those are some extraordinary numbers, Bob. They're numbers that, at my very best, which was not very good, I've never been anything more than a double-digit handicap, are unimaginable to me. And at 89 years old, you can still do that and do still do that. You would have several peers, people that you played with over the years, who had walked away from the game many, many, many years ago. But you haven't. You're one who's still sort of obsessed with the game. Why do you think that is?
It's just the love of the game. Love of the game. I'm at my happiest. It's pouring with rain here right now. It's been raining for 3 days, and I haven't been able to get out there on the range. And so when the sun shines and it hits about at least 15 degrees, preferably it's 20 degrees, I'll go and hit a bucket of 50 balls. Every day, decent day, where it's not raining, not blowing, not cold. Close to 20 degrees, I'll go and hit a bucket of balls. And, of course, I'm lucky to have the opportunity. I live on a golf course here at Clearwater in Christchurch, and I've got my little golf buggy, and I'm on the range in just a matter of 3 minutes.
Do you still walk the course when you play? Are you still able to walk the whole course?
No, well, I had an injury it was just over 12 months ago. I ruptured my Achilles on my left foot, and I had a moon boot on for 3 months.
At 88?
And
At 88, how did you manage to do that, rupture your Achilles?
Tripping.
Right.
Tripping.
Okay.
That's what I did it twice. It was a partial tear initially, and then I was just walking on a carpet, and my foot stuck in the carpet, and it went right there. That was at the New Zealand Open, a year in, where are we, 24, March, early March of, so I'm still, since then I haven't walked a golf course.
Yeah, understood. Just to go back a bit, what you described there, your lifestyle now, where you wait until it's, you're itching for it to get to 20 degrees and somewhat nice weather. You're describing almost an addiction there, are you not?
Oh, yes. Well, you've got to have some facets in your life to really enjoy, and that's it as far as I'm concerned. It's not, just my swing is terrible right now.
Of course it is.
I don't have the flexibility of youth, put it that way. No. I'm pretty stiff. My golf swing, the ideal top of the swing is getting the club horizontal. I have trouble getting it vertical.
You and John Rahm, so you're in good company. Yeah. Bob. John Rahm doesn't get it all the way back there either, so you're fine.
Well, and of course, in my day, Doug Sanders was he was a short swinger, and of course, I can still hit the drives down the middle of the fairway, but they only go about 200 yards, and so a hole over 400 yards is a par 5 for me.
Does it not just make the point about distance in the game being relative to some extent, Bob? Because it's wonderful to be able to hit at 350 yards, but then we see at the top of the game what needs to be done to golf courses to cope with what's happened in technology and distance. Perfectly exciting game at 200 yards off the tee with 150 to go as 350 off the tee with 190 to go, is it not?
Right, now we're getting into technology, and which I think is hurting the game. I don't think it's destroying the game. We'll always have the game, but I'm a great believer in, well, it so happens that I've got right beside me here, Ben do you see Ben Hogan?
I do indeed, an A3 sheet of Ben Hogan's yardages, it looks like.
And who else have I got here?
Oh, Bryson. Good Lord.
Okay, and I'm looking here, and it shows me that it says Ben Hogan's stock yardage and Bryson DeChambeau's stock yardage. Bryson is 325 with the driver. Hogan was 265, so the difference is 60 yards between the two of them. Hogan's goes back to the 50s, I suppose, 40s and 50s. Now here I'm looking at, this is an interesting one. The 7-iron, which Bryson hits, is 205 yards.
Good Lord.
Hogan's hit his 7-iron 135. Now that's 70 yards difference between Hogan's 7-iron and Bryson's 7-iron. All right, Bryson's was jacked up. The loft is not the same as what Hogan's was.
Maybe a 5-iron.
But it's and of course I watched these guys play at the Masters. I played there 15 times and never ever went for the green on 15 and 2. I laid up. I think I made 2 eagles on that hole by holding a wedge shot. Okay. What do I lay up with? I hit a good drive and a 6 or a 7-iron on my second shot to lay up short of the water and pitch on, and hopefully one putt for a birdie. But these guys are hitting 6 and 7 irons for their under the green.
Their second shot. Yeah.
And not only that, but their tees about 30, 40 yards behind where I used to be. It's the game has just changed so much. I've seen it change over the 50 years of my career, and I don't think it's for the good. The average person is the distance the golf ball goes is and the worst part about that is that the great golf courses like St Andrews and should we say Lytham St Anne's?
You should say.
They're becoming obsolete. They've gone back 50, 60, 70 yards on a lot of the holes. They can't go back any further. So now, before long, they won't be able to play those golf courses because the golf ball goes too far. You hit a driver on the green in all the par 4s. it's not a fun game to play or watch. Well, I'm not describing it very well, but and the worst part of all that is the golf courses are becoming longer and longer and longer, and what happens? The play takes longer and longer and longer. So we used to get around and certainly 3.5 hours at St Andrews. You could play, in fact, 3 to 3.5 hours was how long it took at St Andrews. They play the Opens there now. They're taking 5.5 to 6 hours to play there. That's, to me, I don't know what they're trying to prove.
No.
All the powers that be have got to sit down together and reduce the performance of the golf ball to something like, say 200. Nobody can hit it more than 275 yards.
Okay.
And they can produce a golf ball that does that. And why they're continue. I mean, I watched Rory McIlroy tee off on the first hole at Augusta, clear the fairway bunker on the right, 370 yards, was it?
I think so, yes.
Was it?
Yeah,
370 yards.
On the Saturday, yes. 320 of that carry. 320.
Yeah, 320. The ball goes 370. That's when my day. Well, we get back to Kel Nagel. We played a lot of golf together over the years, and particularly we used to play practice rounds at Augusta. I remember Kel telling me that he had 14 fairway wood shots into 14 greens.
Wow.
So that means there were only 4 holes where he hit an iron shot into the green.
4 par threes.
And that was when the course was around 7,000 yards. Now it's 7,500 yards. So where's the game going? It's getting longer. The courses are getting longer.
Yeah.
It's taking longer to play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy going out. I don't want to play 4.5 hour rounds of golf. I want to play 3.5 hour rounds of golf.
Yeah.
I can spend more time bending my elbow in the bar then, can't I?
I don't think you would do that, of course, Bob, but I take your broader point.
Presents
yes,
itself.
Take your broader point. Fundamentally, then, the question about that, I suppose, is, Bob, what is the role of professional golf? To me, it's always been somewhat of a hybrid. It's part entertainment, it part draws people to the game, and it's part sporting excellence, as all sports are. When you switch the focus of a sport so strongly in favour of one particular skill set, which is, I feel that's where we've gone in the modern era, that it's become all about power, and the reward you get for becoming more powerful at the game at the top level is greater in some ways than the reward for practicing other facets of the game. So the players are only answering the questions that they're asked with the equipment they've got to, and if you change the equipment, they'll figure out the answers to those questions as well. But we know that, I'm sure you'll have some feelings on this, money at every level and in every way has its impact on the game, doesn't it? We know why the governing bodies haven't done anything dramatic, and it's because of fear of litigation, a very real fear of litigation. Is that a responsible thing for them to do?
That's right. It goes back to ping and square grooves, doesn't it?
Well, it really, and I think that rightly frightened the USGA, and I don't know what the solution is. We now have a couple of generations of golfers, I feel, who've grown up in this environment where that is what their take on golf is. I wonder, Bob, whether you and I think differently to perhaps old Tom Morris about the game, whether he would think the way we think about the game is not right. I'm not sure. I think it changed fundamentally less between old Tom Morris and you at Lytham in 63 than it has perhaps since 1963 and today. The change has been much greater, I think.
Oh, I'm sure it has. Yes, it's well, of course, Jack Nicklaus in his day was probably the longest hitter out on tour. I've got stats going back to 1967, 68, and he was either 1 or 2 in distance off the tee at about 275 yards.
Right.
That was his maximum in those days. And no, of course, my average is about 245. I was always 30 yards behind Jack. But if you can't hit it 300 yards off the tee now, That's right.
There's no career.
Can't compete.
You need to find another profession
That's
because you're
right.
not going to make it in professional golf. And
so the emphasis is too much on distance and not enough on direction and
There's an art and science discussion about there, isn't there? What best serves the game? I suppose the two extremes, you might think of Seve as the artist and Hogan as the technician, the engineer. The game caters to all of those, doesn't it? In this modern age, it feels like that is less so. There's much more of a skew towards the technician, the engineer who can figure out how to hit the ball an extra 20 yards off the tee because the advantage that gives is so extreme compared to others. I've just seen how long we've been talking about it. I've not yet quizzed you about the 1963 Open at Lytham. What's the first thing you think of when I say to you the 1963 Open at Lytham and St Anne's?
Well, that was my first and only major championship. It's no, Lytham was the leading up to Lytham, I just won the Houston Open a few months before, and my first win on the US tour, and so I was felt like I was one of the leading players in the event that year, and the ones to beat were Nicholas Palmer and Player and Thompson and Nagel. Sorry, I can't put a British player in there. But no, I was full of confidence going there and playing very well and had luck on my side.
Yeah. It's an interesting course, Lytham, in the Open Rotor. It's very different in many ways. In fact, they're all uniquely individual if you think about it, particularly the links courses of the Open Championship. But Lytham, it starts with a par 3, which just feels in some ways like a punch in the face, doesn't it? It's not a handshake way to start a golf tournament, is it?
No, well, I think it's better to have it being the first hole rather than the 18th hole.
So that's true, particularly that hole. You're quite right there now to think about it, indeed.
Yes, get it out of the way early.
Yes, we know how costly it was for Ian Woosnam, don't we? Of course,
right.
Didn't pull a driver out of his bag till the second tee, and that's when he discovered he was carrying 2 and the accompanying 2-shot penalty. What are your memories of that week? It was a long week, Bob, and lots of people will have forgotten. It's the nature of time, is that, the further things get into the rear view mirror, the less sort of attention they bring. A long week, 72 holes, and then a 36-hole playoff. It was the last time that was done, and I imagine you would be quite pleased that that's a change that was made in some ways. That must have been a brutal exercise, physically and mentally.
Well, I think what we had in our favour is a pretty flat golf course for a start. The temperature was somewhere between, and of course that's Fahrenheit, is between, I suppose, 55 and 65, coolish temperatures. So you can, I remember playing in a US Open, which Ken Venturi won at Congressional, where the temperature was pretty close to 100 degrees, and we played 36 holes on the last day. I don't know whether you
he only just survived, did he not? He was very
had to have a doctor walking with him to feed him with salt tablets to get there. But no, the temperature was not a problem. We had to qualify. Did I qualify? No, I think qualifying finished the year before, I think, at Troon.
And exemptions had started, that's right, yes.
Yeah, so I was exempt. Of course, we always used to go over there the week before, so it was a 2-week, coming from the United States where I was playing at the time. We always went for 2 weeks and filled in a lot of time watching Wimbledon, which was always the week before the Open. So you'd play your practice round early in the morning and then watch tennis all afternoon. So, but the 36, I was, only 27, so I was pretty fit. And, of course, the first round was on the Wednesday. The second round was on the Thursday, and there was 36 holes on the Friday, the finishing day. And then, of course, tying, Phil Rogers and I, we had to go another 36 holes. So, as you say, 72 holes in 2 days. So, I don't think I was carrying any extra weight, and I think Phil might have been carrying just a little bit of extra weight. And whether the fitness of the two of us, whether it was an influencer and who won, I think it favoured myself.
Yeah, indeed. You became, I think, quite good friends with Phil Rogers. Phil Rogers, of course, he made an extraordinary putt on the last, as did you, to both finish one ahead of Nicklaus, which in itself is a daunting proposition to have a putt to finish one ahead of Nicklaus just because the putt has that consequence. I think you developed quite a close relationship, if I'm not mistaken, after that.
Well, we were never really close. We celebrated. He
joined you for dinner,
after I won. We had dinner together after I won because there was nobody else around for him to have to eat with. You know, Jack had already gone, but no, he was a character and an extra. Well, I'm an introvert, and you can call him an extrovert. I mean, if you go to Las Vegas and you always knew where Phil Rogers was because he was the loudest one in the crap game there in the casino.
Easy way to keep track of people. What are your memories of that week, and what was particularly well? What you've played several majors and lots of tournament golf. Can you have an inkling early in the week about how things might unfold? Did you have a feeling that week before the gun went off, so to speak?
No. The thought of winning never entered my head. It never did in any event which I entered. I worked on the theory of have low expectations, and I never set goals throughout my whole life. I never set a goal, and I never had any high expectations. I would just go and do the best you can. So that meant, I didn't have, at the end of the week, if it didn't work out, so be it. You just move on and you don't get too depressed. So, well, not that I ever got depressed anyway. I was always kind of a fairly upbeat person. And, so the Open unfold and as far as everything fell into place as far as I was concerned. And not that it meant anything, but I was there in 1958 at Lytham St Anne's when they had a 36-hole playoff with Peter and Dave Thomas. And I don't know how many holes. I know I walked quite a few holes with them. And so that was... Did they have any 36 holes? I don't... that would have been the 36-hole playoff before mine. And of course, as you said, mine was the last of the 36-hole playoffs.
Lots of professionals will have thanked you since, I'm sure, that it's no longer the case because that's, well, they have corporate responsibilities these days, Bob. You can't be sticking around for a 36-hole playoff. We need to get it finished on Sunday because I've got a day to play in on Monday for a big check.
Well, the only reason why the tournament was supposed to finish on a Friday because the pros had to get back to their members and wash and shine their shoes and wash their golf clubs and over for the weekend.
Not a religious thing, as many of us would have assumed that you don't play on the weekend or particularly Sunday was the sort of the thinking. You must have seen the game drive people mad at points, Bob. You're extremely level-headed, clearly, and still to this day, an excellent personality for golf, but one that's perhaps tough to maintain. You would have seen lots of players over the years, I'm sure, who were perhaps physically good enough, but mentally the game tortured them.
Well, yes, we had fellow New Zealander John Lister, who he went and played the tour. Mm-hmm. I don't know for how many years. He won a tournament.
I was going to say he won one tournament, if I recall.
He won one tournament. And then he was a long ball hitter. Mm-hmm. He was as long as anybody out there at the time.
Yep.
Great golf swing. But he started missing cuts. And when you start missing cuts, you're not going to make any money. So I think he mentally, the game got too much for him, and he had an awful lot of talent, but it was just he was unable to cope with the missing cuts and not making any money, going, not only weeks but months without making a cut. And so he retired from the game at a young age. He did have a go at senior golf, and that didn't work out either. But there's been a lot of people like John Lister come along. In fact, another very talented, great golf swing, long ball hitter was Bobby Cole, a South African, who won the British Amateur at Carnoustie, I believe.
Wow, that's an achievement.
And had a huge amount of talent, and played the tour. Never won on the tour, won in South Africa, and that was about it. And I'm so pleased to see that he's got a son who's successfully playing on the tour right now.
Yeah, indeed. It raises the question, as one I've often wondered about, Bob, of the role of attitude versus aptitude once you've achieved a certain level of technical proficiency. And which do you think is perhaps the most important, attitude or aptitude?
They both help, don't they?
Well, clearly they're both important, but is one perhaps more important than the other? Is it your hands or your mind that get the ball in the hole in the end?
Yeah, yes, well, it boils down to putting, really, which from an early age I had a pretty natural aptitude for putting, and I suppose, the aptitude would have been my foremost. It's
perhaps it's impossible to split them, Bob. They go together.
I had them both pretty good, and I was, if you had a bad hole, well, and of course I had a good attitude, and I was never an aggressive, go for broke Arnold Palmer style player. I played conservative. Well, I'm a conservative person in all parts of my life anyway. And so I would rather play it safe. As I say, 15 at Augusta, play short, lay up, don't go for the green. You know your limitations, so you just hope for. And I was pretty useful not only with the putting but also with the wedge in my hand. So I could still feel like I could make a birdie by laying up. And you've got to have go-to clubs. You've got to lay up and narrow fairways and keep the ball in play. I never was that sort of an aggressive, confident player. I was a confident, negative player. If you can understand that.
Yeah, I can't. Well, it's about being comfortable in your own skin, isn't it? Had you tried to adopt Arnold Palmer's game, it would likely have been disastrous. And had he tried to adopt yours, it would likely have also been disastrous. But when the right person pursues the right path, they have success.
You're right. You've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. Incorrect. You played in an era of extraordinary names in the game. What are your recollections of that? Because as far as the journey is from small town New Zealand to winning the Open, it's just as far to traversing the world with celebrities and famous golfers. And you were, I think, Mark McCormack's fourth client after the big three, if I'm not mistaken. That's quite the world to live in. I remember Mary Thompson told me, Peter's wife, what a glamorous lifestyle they had in some ways. They didn't realise it at the time, but he would hang out with Sean Connery and, people who were very famous. How did you adapt to all that? I don't get the sense that's something you would have pursued for your own ends, but what was it like to find yourself there?
Oh, well, I'm, pretty easygoing, adaptable, and I don't get overly nervous in certain situations. On the golf course, obviously the old heart beats a little faster when you're in contention. But no, I'm not in awe of.
Not
what am I trying to
starstruck?
say?
Would that be
Yeah, my is it the alpha and betas or whatever? That mine. I don't have fluctuations,
Right.
and I don't have extreme highs or extreme lows. I'm kind of always kind of in the middle.
That's that authentic confidence, isn't it? There's a difference between confident and cocky, isn't there?
Well, yeah, oh, indeed, yeah. No, I was never cocky or overconfident. It's
Confident enough in your own skin in any company to hold your own, which is a fabulous thing to have. What was that like? What were those people like? You played and I imagine socialised and got to know very well several of the most famous names in the game from an era that as I say, was precursor to what many think the golden era of the 70s, 80s and 90s, but was an extraordinary time in golf. You guys were the superstars leading the growth of the game in so many ways. What were those people like and what are those relationships like? It's a world I don't think we can fathom from outside, perhaps.
Oh, well, yeah, it was you could write a book about all that, couldn't you?
you might, Bob, indeed. It's an excellent idea.
Maybe I should give some thought to that.
You should.
No, it was...
did those things occupy your mind, Bob? Did those things occupy your mind, or was it just that's where you were at that time in life and you were doing what you needed to do on the golf course and that was the result?
That's more like it. Yeah. No, I didn't go out of my way to socialize with a lot of the, should we say, famous or well-known people that I played with in the pro-ams. I enjoyed their company and chatting with them on the golf course, and but never, after I left the golf course, I never really, thought, gee, I'd like to have an evening, a social evening with somebody. We just no. As Frank Sinatra did it, I did it my way rather than yeah.
You never went clubbing with Arnold Palmer. My goodness, Bob, what some stories you might have missed out on there. That would have been.
No, I've stayed in his home. Well, my wife and I we stayed. Arnold was generous with that, and I've dined with him, and but we. Not on a regular basis, but the same with Jack Nicklaus. We've the big three. Gary Player, of course, was probably my closest friend on tour. Our wives went to school together, so that was my introduction to Gary goes back to 1958 when we first played the Masters. Well, I first played the Masters, yes. And I was, of course, an amateur at the time. Although, no, hold on, I take that back. My first trip outside of New Zealand was to Australia in 1956 to play in two golf tournaments. I'm an amateur, 56, so I'm only 20. That was the Polaco tournament at the Australian Golf Club and the Ampol tournament at Yarra Yarra in Melbourne. You can't quite go back that far, can you?
I know the Ampol tournament was
56.
Yeah. Well, there was the Canada Cup, of course, was played at Melbourne as the Melbourne Olympics. But I do know that the Ampol tournament attracted, certainly when it was played in Sydney, some very big names from America and was an extraordinary event at its time.
Well, it had Flory Van Donk from Europe. It had three South Africans, Henning and Wilkes and Player. Bo Weiniger, who was a PGA Tour winner, and George Bayer, who was one of the longest hitters on the tour. And it was the first time I ever saw television. We stayed in a place in Potts Point. John Durry and I, another New Zealand golfer, and we saw television in a shop window in the Potts Point area there. So that in 1956.
For the first time. First time you saw a TV. Good Lord.
First time I saw a TV was in Sydney, Australia. Yeah. So that tournament, I remember watching Bo Weiniger, who was kind of a good-looking man and, dressed immaculately. And he was wearing a red shirt, black pants, and white shoes. And I thought, wow, I like that. So I started wearing that, not necessarily on the last day, but I did eventually wear it on the last day, particularly on the senior tour. When I went out there, I wore, and of course, that was the outfit that Tiger Woods made, wearing a red shirt on the final day.
Yep. And he's
But
never
anyway,
acknowledged you
then
for
we
that,
went.
Bob. He's never acknowledged you for that.
No, he never
and he
acknowledged
should
it.
do. That's the least he
Well,
could
Bo,
do.
Bo Weininger showed me what a slick dresser could do. And then we went to Melbourne, of course, and Gary won the Ampol tournament, and that was, it was about 10,000 pound, was it, in those days? It would have been pounds, I think.
Yes.
And of course, he made enough money to go home and marry his sweetheart.
Yeah. Wow. It's
Vivian. So
I can't imagine seeing television for the first time at the age of 20. It's an unthinkable. The world has changed so rapidly, Bob. Is it changing faster than it used to? You've been around for a long time.
Well, this AI. AI to me is artificial insemination.
You're a farmer.
I'm a farmer.
I'm
a New Zealand farmer, and that's what AI was.
Some would suggest in some ways it still does, Bob, with the impact that it's having.
So the AI is, I can't understand it. I mean, the world is traveling too fast for me, and I have a short lifespan left. And in fact, what is interesting, I'm holding in my hand this thing. I hardly know. Hello, here my wife has just come back from the hairdresser, but I don't know how to. I don't use any modern technology at all. I know how to pick up the phone, dial a phone, and that's it. I get the weather forecast out off this phone that I'm speaking to you on, but I leave my wife to do all the typing with the fingers on the machines. It's it's a world which I was never brought up on, and will probably never become part of what it is today.
Yes, I wonder sometimes whether we're talking on FaceTime, which is just to let people know. This was a Jetsons thing when I was a kid watching the cartoon. The Jetsons, they would talk to each other on devices where you could see yourself. And I remember thinking as a kid, that's madness. How could you ever do that? Yeah. Here we are, Bob, and recording it and making it available for the whole world to hear. It's an extraordinary thing. I wanted to come back to you quickly because I've just noticed how long I've kept you, and I must let you go soon.
No. It'll take my wife another half hour to get lunch ready, so you're okay.
Pardon me. That's made my day, Bob. That's fantastic stuff. We've talked about changes in the game and the way the game is different. Is it better, do you think? And I think there's two games. There's the professional tournament game, which we watch on TV, and then there's the game that you probably play with locals at Clearwater, the guys who play everything from 20 down to scratch. And they are two different games, are they not? Have the changes been good for either? Is professional golf better for the technological advantage? And is amateur golf better, or recreational golf probably more accurately better?
Well, it's probably better for the television viewer. But for the participant like myself, the average player, I don't think it does anything at all for them. The average lady hits the ball, less than 150 yards, and the average man hits it less than 200 yards. And, when you get up into the 300 yards tee shots, it's a totally different game. But anyway, I and a few others are going back to the past and playing hickory golf. And we've had 3 New Zealand Hickory Opens here at the Christchurch Golf Club, and they've been hugely successful. A lot of we get about 60 participants. It's an open event. And it's hopefully going to grow. I've got a wicked set of I only use 6 clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Most people walk and carry 6 clubs. So we're getting back to the roots of the game, where it all started. We use softer balls, which run a lot further. They don't go through the air quite that far, and it's so we're using a shorter golf course. We get around in quicker time, and it's something you length doesn't mean. With hickory, length doesn't mean it's finessing the club, and when you only got six clubs to pick from, there's big gaps, and so you got to hit half shots and 3/4 shots. The modern game is you hit everything flat out. You don't. Another thing with the modern game, the ball goes a lot straighter.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to spin. I used to be able to spin the ball reasonably well, make it stop on the green. I can't make the ball stop on the greens anymore. It's just so it's hard, and a combination of age and swing. So the modern equipment that is not. I'm not enjoying it all. I'd rather go back to the older equipment where the ball used to spin better and stop better, and you got your money's worth.
Lovely way to put it. If we were to promote it like that, perhaps some more people would discover the joy of it. Because I think you're right. I feel like one of the great things about golf is that you can, in fact, just choose to experience it how you like. If you're not playing competitive golf in any way, you can play with 5 clubs, you can play with 20 if you want, you can play with a group of 5 if you're not holding anybody up, you can play with hickory, you can play off the forward tees, you can play. It's such a free game, isn't it? It feels like so much of what we do in golf tries to contain it. A championship course must be par 72, it must have 4 par 5s and 4 par 3s. All these rules we try to put on the game in different ways all take a little bit away from, don't they? One of, I think, the greatest creative sporting outlets, which is there's the tee, there's the green, you find your way there, and if you do it better than the bloke next to you, you win.
Yeah, well, you mentioned using different tees in that, and I use the white tees, which the white tees are around about 6,000 yards. I've stopped using the blue and the black tees. They're history, and so I'm going to be moving forward to the red tees and the gold tees, etc. And it shows you I don't have the ego. Why women want to hit off the white tees when they should be using the gold or the red tees?
Any player.
It takes them 3 shots to reach the par 4s, 2 shots to reach the par 3s, 5 shots to reach the par 5s. Yeah. I can't understand that. So I think there should be a better, and this is something which the golf course architects, they only think of the good player. They don't think of the inferior, the short hitter and that. And they don't put enough different tee markers out for the shorter hitter. Yeah. And if you can't reach a par 4 and 2, in my opinion, you're on the wrong tees. Yeah. And when I get that I can't reach the par 4s and 2 off the white tees, I'm going to move forward and give myself an opportunity to make a par or a birdie. Yeah. Whereas using tees, you can't reach the green and a par 4s and 2. It's I can't figure that out, why people would want to do that.
But golfers are funny, aren't they, Bob? If you ask any golfer how the course should be set up for their monthly medal here in Australia, I assume you have a similar system in New Zealand. Once a month we play monthly medal, and it's just a given. The tees will be as far back as they can go, and the pins will all be in the most difficult spots. And golfers are drawn to that. I've often wondered what would happen if we instituted a second monthly event, which was the opposite. Play off the most forward tees with the pins in the easiest positions and the course set up to do as well. I'm not sure the scoring actually would change that much, but I wonder whether the fun factor might. Lots and lots of people won't go forward just to see what it's like. There's some weird stigma attached to that. It's madness, isn't it, in so many ways?
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because I've got penned out a letter which I'm going to give to the presidents and the captains of the 2 golf clubs here in Christchurch, which I'm involved with. It's the Clearwater and the Christchurch Golf Club. And I'd like to see an 18-hole par 3 contest.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is move the tees forward. 18-hole par 3, 3 golf clubs, a putter, a mashie, niblick, or whatever, just only 3. And the longest hole is 120 yards. And the shortest is 80 yards. Doesn't matter who you are. Mrs. Jones, who can only hit off a 50 handicap, who can only hit the ball 120 yards with a driver, she can play.
Yep.
But I think that would be a lot of fun to play an 18-hole par 3.
It speaks in some ways too, and it's a shame we haven't done. You would have seen loads of pitch and putt courses at the various courses on the open road. Turnberry has a fantastic little pitch and putt course there. That's no less fun than playing Turnberry itself, is it? It's a different sort of fun, but it's not less fun.
Yeah. Well, mum, dad, and the kids can all get out there and have a lot of fun. If you're even a non-golfer, a short course you can play, but the long courses, it'll take you, and interesting, in my day, the highest handicap for men was, I believe, 24, and for women is 36. How do they get 54 handicaps? I played with 2 ladies whose handicaps are in the 50s. I mean, there's something seriously wrong there. And how long, when you get a 50 handicap, which is 120 or whatever score, how long is it going to take you to hit all those shots?
The same amount of time.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I understand that, but the only way I would push back on that is to say that the player who was playing off the maximum of 24 50 years ago is exactly the same golfer. It's just that their handicap is only allowed to go to 24. Perhaps those golfers should have been off 50 plus if you were to calculate a different way. So the standard of golf hasn't changed. It's the way they calculate the handicap.
Well, no, the courses were much shorter than the
absolutely. That's exactly right. And again, no less fun. Do you feel like you had less fun playing golf as a youngster than you did when you reached the upper echelons of the game to play at Augusta National? It
was always fun.
Yeah, it just doesn't have as much impact as I think we think it has. We see pretty photos in golf magazines and aerial shots and big water hazards and those. They're visually very appealing, but I'm not sure they add anything to the game itself or the experience of playing.
Well, we get back to Augusta and the fun. I lost the fun factor when I couldn't reach the par 4s and 2.
Yeah. As you've just outlined an example of it there. Just quickly on the Masters, what did you make and what do you make of Bernhard Langer, who almost made the cut this year at Augusta?
Unbelievable. Yeah, I was rooting for him. I was hoping he would make the cut.
Yeah, I think we all were.
What is he, 67, I think? 67, and he's still winning tournaments on they call it the Champions Tour now. I never played the Champions Tour, I only played the Senior Tour. But his record will be unequaled. I thought Hale Irwin's record in senior golf would be, but Bernard has gone way by that.
Yeah, indeed. Which brings to mind, of course, while I was looking at some of your numbers, extraordinarily impressive. 75 professional wins around the world, of course, the Open. You were second a couple of times also at the Open, second and third, I think, at the US Open. You were a contender. There was a period there for probably 10 years where you were one of the players who was likely to be in the mix at any given major. Extraordinary achievements. And we fast forward, I can't remember the year, but at the age of 71, you made the cut at the New Zealand Open. I remember watching this on television, and I remember watching Bruce Young interview you as you walked up the 18th hole. I know it's like children, but the 63 Open and making the cut at the age of 71 are 2 extraordinary achievements. Can you put them in any sort of order? Do they compare in any way? I guess the point I'm making the cut at the National Open at the age of 71 must have been an extraordinary positive feeling.
Yes, well, I was playing a golf course that I knew very well, and I had been playing a lot of golf at that time. I think if I'd made a 4 on the 72nd hole, I think I would have been in the top 10. But I made a 6, and I think it was about 20th, or not too exactly sure. But what I think that gave me a thrill, and it was a record as far as the European tour goes, and making cuts. And I think the only one who can beat that is Bernard Langer, perhaps.
Oh, so, and he's got to wait a little bit yet.
Yeah, he's got to wait a few years. That's right.
Indeed.
But no, that was one of the tournaments that I treasure is being able to make the cut, and play all 4 rounds in my 70s.
Yeah, 4 times a winner of the tournament, which I'm sure is a source of enormous pride for you. Every golfer will tell you that their National Open sits just below the 4 majors, and for some, maybe even a little bit higher in some ways. Wasn't the only time you've done something extraordinary. You also made the cut at the Open Championship at the age of 60, I think in 1996. That must have also felt like an extraordinary achievement, particularly given the way the game had changed. That 1996 period, we were seeing a real change in the game. The Callaway Big Bertha had come out, not long before. We really started to see guys who pick up, wasn't quite the same as the Pro V1 in 2000, but guys picked up 20 and 30 yards overnight, shifting to different clubs. So that must have been an extraordinary feeling to have made the cut at the age of 60.
Well, I won my last tournament win was in Hawaii. What was the name of the tournament? Royal Kanapali at the age of 60. I won my last tournament then, but he's been going at 67, still winning. So that's far exceeds what I did. But no, I've had a great innings and great career. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and proud of some of my achievements.
Can you imagine a life without golf, Bob? At some point it might happen. It doesn't look like it's going to happen to you at the moment. You look like Superman and you're not slowing down. But what would that be like? What will that?
No, I think I'll. No, hitting a golf ball is one. As long as I can hit a golf ball, I'm happy. I won't be a very happy chappy if I can't hit a golf ball.
Play at all, yeah. And of course, I assume, and everybody suggests that you still putt almost as well as you used to in some ways. And I think you only had 4 putters in your career. Is that right? You're still using one of your originals?
Well, I've been using that one since 1990 when the powers that be made the grip non-conforming on my putter, so I had to change putter. Yeah. No, still using the bullseye, but I missed in the 73 I had just a couple of days ago. I missed 2 putts inside of 2 feet.
Ooh.
So I'm now looking at the spider, which Rory is using. I notice he's using a spider, so I'll leave the bullseye to gather cobwebs and take up the spider.
More than 80 years in the game, Bob, and you're still looking for the magical piece of equipment which might make the big change.
Oh, yeah. I'm using a new set of irons I've just had for a couple of months from Titleist, so I think this will be my last set of irons, though.
Yes, but never say never. You don't know what's around the corner, technology-wise and whatnot, and those kinds of things. Finally, I wanted to finish up, Bob, with a question that's impossible to answer, but I hope it makes the point. If you take yourself all the way back to a 17-year-old before you won that first New Zealand Open as an amateur, as a 17-year-old, if you had looked forward from that time, could you have imagined where you are now?
Oh, absolutely not. No. And as I said earlier, I never set any goals. I had I just was out there whacking a little white sphere for enjoyment, pleasure, and love of a game. I love all games, and even card games for that matter. But I'm at my happiest when I'm playing games.
Yeah, it's testament.
And of course, I never envisioned the lifestyle I've had at all, and but I'm so pleased that I was lucky enough to achieve what I have done. And of course, I had a lot of people who helped me along the way. I had a chapter in the book on my caddies, which contributing factor, and of course, my family, my wife, and a number of friends, particularly a couple in South Africa, the Bloombergs.
Yes, indeed.
Very
early.
Them who they had a lot to do with Bobby Cole and Gary Player, but no, it's been a great life, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
It's a testament to a life well lived and still lots of life to go, I suspect, Bob. But not everybody gets that, and I feel that you feel the privilege and the luck of having had such a blessed life in so many ways. Having said all that, luck is only one element, assistance is only one element. All of those things can't come together without the central character, yourself, and what you've brought to your own success. And so I understand what you say, but how did I heard something, it wasn't related to golf, but there was a really interesting notion of, it was about violence, what can drive people to violence. And this psychiatrist said, there's any number of things involved, but if you think about it like a bike lock, a combination lock, you can have 3 of the 4 numbers it won't unlock. But if the last thing falls into place, that's when the lock can unlock, and that's when you can get violence. So we're all capable of it, but we don't all find ourselves in a situation where all of the numbers have lined up and it's been unlocked. I thought that was an interesting way to think about it. And I think perhaps a golf career and a life in golf are a bit the same. All of the numbers have lined up, but every number plays its part. And with one of them missing, none of it works. It's interesting sort of.
So love and luck, they go hand in hand too.
Yeah, indeed. Well, it's been extraordinarily generous of you to take some time to chat to us this morning, Sir Bob. I really appreciate that. I'll let people know where they can get the book, and it is well worth a read. It's an underreported story, Bob. I wonder if you've had the recognition that perhaps you deserve. That's not something I expect you to be able to answer. That's a difficult thing to answer about oneself, but I wonder about that.
Well, I don't deserve any recognition, but I'm proud of what achievements and a knighthood and Order of New Zealand being recognised for what I've achieved and done. And I don't say that I'm a role model, but I'd like to think that some young kid there right now can kind of read my book and think, well, gee, if he can do it, maybe I can do it too.
We're all role models in a way, aren't we, Bob, to the others that we impact in life, no matter who you are.
That's true.
From bottom to top, we're all some sort of mentor. Extremely generous of you to take some, Bob. I really do thank you. It's been fantastic to chat to you. I've got a million more questions I could ask, but I'm sure your lunch isn't far off being ready, so I'd better let you go.
Save it for some other time. I'm always available.
That's a generous offer on your part.
I'm retired now. Well, so-called retired.
Officially?
So plenty of time.
Do golfers officially retire, Bob? I've never heard one officially retire.
Yeah. No,
they might hang up the clubs and not play anymore, but none of them have ever said, I've retired now. That just doesn't happen. It's a bug for life. Fantastic.
No.
Lovely to chat.
Good.
And thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been terrific.
It's a pleasure, Rod. Enjoyed it. All the best.
Fantastic.
Take care.
As I said at the beginning, there's always so much left out of these conversations, but for mine at least, there was no shortage of wisdom shared in that discussion. That's it for episode 140 of the show, but I hope you've hit the follow button because we're in for a real treat on our next.
And in fact, I'll never forget it, and I won't name the name, but the chap said to me one day, he said, look, you and I both know you're not good enough to make it on the tour.
That's two-time Australian PGA champion and respected Sky Sports commentator Andrew Coltart. Next time on The Thing About Golf.